We thought we'd tell you who we're not. Let's start here. We're not in shipping. We don't make lifts. Seriously, no lifts. We do this. We're good at this. And we make all of these. And even though you'll find us here and here, we don't make energy. We make you save it. And you'll be saving the environment too. Are we an internet company? Well, we connect and power just about everything around you, helping machines talk to each other and to you, making your world more personal. We're seeking out the big questions and answering them honestly. Like, how can we make the most of our energy and resources? Or can we make access to energy and digital basic human rights? We're real people, employees, developers, partners, investors, and inventors, all passionate about doing what's right. We're open, humans of all sorts from all over, learning from each other and about each other. We're not here to save the world. It'll go on with or without us. We're here to help power and connect what you do every day, to ensure life is on everywhere, for everyone at every moment.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Schneider Electric Innovation Summit North America 2021. Thank you for joining us. My name is Trish Starkey, and I'm the Vice President of Commercial Operations at AlphaStructure, a joint venture of Schneider Electric and the Carlyle Group. AlphaStructure enables organizations to achieve resilient, sustainable energy outcomes with no upfront cost.
And my name is Khaled Fakhouri, Vice President, Digital Power and Energy Management Software at Schneider Electric. My team helps customers elevate reliability and efficiency in their critical power systems. It is great to be with you today. Our opening keynote starts in a few minutes. We have an amazing program lined up for you, and we are very excited to share our vision for the future and explore some of the industry's biggest trends, opportunities, and innovations.
So please take the next few minutes to settle in, grab a snack or beverage if you need one, and get ready to learn how to prepare your business for the future today. We'll get started soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Schneider Electric Innovation Summit North America 2021. Thank you for joining us. My name is Trish Starkey, and I'm the Vice President of Commercial Operations at AlphaStructure, a joint venture of Schneider Electric and the Carlyle Group. AlphaStructure enables organizations to achieve resilient, sustainable energy outcomes with no upfront cost.
And my name is Khaled Fakhouri, Vice President, Digital Power and Energy Management Software at Schneider Electric. My team helps customers elevate reliability and efficiency in their critical power systems. It is great to be with you today. Our opening keynote starts in a few minutes. We have an amazing program lined up for you, and we are very excited to share our vision for the future and explore some of the industry's biggest trends, opportunities, and innovations.
So please take the next few minutes to settle in, grab a snack or beverage if you need one, and get ready to learn how to prepare your business for the future today. We'll get started soon.
Life. Every moment needs to count. We're all on a journey through a world that's dramatically changing. And how it changes is up to us. If there's ever been a time to come together, it's right now, right here, as we evolve toward a net zero world. A world that's all digital, all electric. A world where there's room for this and this, and as much of this as we can get. Our shared path leads us to a destination where we inspire collaboration, unleash innovation, drive efficiency, and propel growth for lasting resilience. That's sustainability. And it's waiting for us. As you're on your own path to a sustainable tomorrow, we're here to help every step of the way. And the first step? Join us on the path to sustainability.
Hello and welcome to Innovation Summit North America 2021. For those of you who just joined us in the last few minutes, my name is Khaled Fakhouri. I'm the Vice President of Digital Power and Energy Management Software at Schneider Electric. My team helps our customers elevate reliability and efficiency in their critical power systems.
And my name is Trish Starkey, and I'm the Vice President of Commercial Operations at AlphaStructure, a joint venture of Schneider Electric and the Carlyle Group. AlphaStructure enables organizations to achieve resilient, sustainable energy outcomes with no upfront costs.
We are your hosts for today's event. We want to start by thanking you for tuning in. Our job today is to guide you through the experience and help you make the most of our time together.
That's right. Today, we expect thousands of our partners, customers, clients, suppliers, and members of the press from across North America to join us. And we couldn't be more excited about what we have in store for you. You'll hear Annette Clayton, President and CEO of Schneider Electric North America, share 3 steps organizations can take toward a more sustainable future, and how we can all act now to prepare for a world that is more digital and electric.
You will then get to see for the very first time some of Schneider Electric's most exciting new offers and innovations in our North America premiere.
And afterwards, we'll roll straight into 2 important and timely sessions. First, you'll hear from a panel of experts about upcoming infrastructure opportunities led by U.S. Country President Amar Paul. Then, our Canada Country President, Adrian Thomas, will discuss sustainability with fellow business leaders and the CEO of Corporate Knights, a media and research group dedicated to clean capitalism. We'll learn some best practices and ideas for ranking on the list of the most sustainable corporations in the world.
And finally, you'll have the chance to choose from a variety of sessions led by thought leaders and industry experts on topics such as data centers, building, industry, and homes of the future. There's a lot in store for you over the next 2 hours, but we also want to hear from you. We invite you to share your experiences on social media throughout the event using the hashtag #InnovationSummit. And now, I'd like to introduce our Chairman and CEO, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, who will kick off Innovation Summit North America 2021.
Hello, and welcome to the Innovation Summit North America. It's absolutely great for me to be with you today. And in these difficult times of COVID, I hope that you and your loved ones are all doing very well. As we gather together today to discuss the path to sustainability, we know that another meeting, COP26, is happening now in Glasgow, Scotland, with the same net zero future in mind. It doesn't matter if you are sitting here together with Schneider or in Glasgow, the idea is the same. Everyone listening in has a role to play. According to the United Nations latest report, the window to course correct on climate change is closing fast. North America, and the companies, industries, and geographies you all represent, will play a critical role in how the world responds to this challenge. And there is one thing which is really true, is that we can no longer continue to look to 2040 or 2050 as our deadline to act. 2030 is a better deadline, and it's just 33 quarters away. It's not just about accelerating our timelines. It's about accelerating our commitments. We need to do 3 to 5 times more than what we are doing now. Yet, just 20% of the top 2,000 global companies have made climate commitments. If we want to solve this, we need a global mobilization. And that starts with events like the Innovation Summit here or the COP26 in Glasgow. Today, we'll focus heavily on the path to sustainability, and think about it. Think about our role as leaders of our companies. Our role is to make decisions that bring tailwinds to our companies and minimize risk for our companies. In one word, it's about making choices on decisions for sustainability. And sustainability and profitability go together. How do you get there? How do you take action? Where do you start? We've been traveling on this journey, on this path, for over 15 years, and we now know the way. This year, our approach enabled Corporate Knights, a recognized institution, to rank us as the most sustainable corporation in the world. And it's a journey that you or any company can follow. The know-how exists, the technology does exist, but the work remains. And that's why I'm very excited to kick off the summit today. It's another chance to build momentum and continue our partnership towards a sustainable future. Let's make the most of our energy and resources, and let's make the most of this Innovation Summit.
Thanks, Jean-Pascal. We hear you loud and clear here in North America. And hello, everyone. I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you, our partners, customers, clients, suppliers, and members of the press. Thank you for joining us today. Before we dive into sustainability, the theme of this summit, I want to speak to you directly about the challenges we've faced over the past 20 months and the opportunities that await us. As you know, what we thought we were facing last March with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic is far different than what we're experiencing today. The world has undeniably changed, and that's put immense pressure on our global and regional supply chains. Beyond the pandemic, we've also experienced black swan events that further impacted our suppliers. Winter storms caused production stoppages in Mexico, and unprecedented freezing temperatures in Texas affected the plastics industries worldwide. Cargo ships were halted at the Suez Canal, and fires worldwide delayed shipments. And now a global semiconductor shortage has impacted multiple sectors, including our own. Because the world isn't as stable as it's been in the past 2 decades, we're investing in a way that comprehends a world with more anticipated, yet unplanned disruptions. We do this by improving the robustness of our supplier network and increasing local capacity. We've also taken aggressive actions to rebound and recover from unforeseen events. Last year, I stood before you and said we will invest $40 million to bolster our North American supply chain, accelerating production while shortening the distance between our factories and customers. We did that and improved. This year, I'm excited to announce that we're investing even more in our supply chain and will build 2 new manufacturing plants to increase output in North America, with plans to commission them in 2022. In the meantime, we're doing everything in our power across the supply chain to procure the components we need to build and ship products. For instance, we've qualified and onboarded more than 100 new suppliers to support increased demand, and have secured and paid for raw materials 12 to 24 months in advance to improve continuity of supply. Before I go any further, let me take a moment to express my gratitude for your business, trust, and patience, especially during the last 20 months. I'm confident we have a world-class supply chain team that is managing the reality that all supply chains have faced. As we continue to strengthen our supply chain, I'm optimistic that our business has never been better positioned for the acceleration toward a more digital world. While the world is indeed becoming more digital, it's also becoming more at risk. Earlier this year, the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report that described climate change as a code red for humanity. In other words, decarbonization isn't happening fast enough. With that in mind, today I'm going to lay out the path toward what holistic climate action looks like. We see it as a three-step journey that transforms how any organization can become more sustainable. It's a path that involves reducing energy waste through digitization, replacing fossil fuel with zero carbon electricity, and engaging your company's value chain to do the same. This is the path we've followed to become the most sustainable corporation in the world, according to the Canadian research firm Corporate Knights. It's a path that anyone can follow. It's also the path that encompasses precisely what we bring to the table as your digital partner for efficiency and sustainability: our products, solutions, services, and software. This summit is about sharing ideas, but this year, more than most, it's about taking action. My hope is that you'll come away from the summit with a clear understanding of how to achieve sustainability in your own organization or your customers and across your value chain. The first step on the climate action path is to reduce energy use across your enterprise. The era of what we call Electricity 4.0 is about coupling data with energy, thereby making the invisible visible. When you do that, you can detect energy waste, some of which has been hiding for years or even decades. I've been in the industry for 10+ years, and I still find it surprising how much energy waste there is. Researchers at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab found that 62.3% of all energy in the US in 2020 was wasted. Another study revealed that energy efficiency improvements alone could reduce the US greenhouse gas emissions by 57%. Now then, to do something about energy reduction, it begins with digitization, and this is where our core open source solution, EcoStruxure, comes into play. Our connected products are designed with digital in mind. They produce data. That data is then captured and analyzed for insights into what's running efficiently and what needs improvement. There are many organizations leading the charge on energy efficiency. On the building front, which accounts for 39% of energy-related carbon emissions globally, is the University of Notre Dame. The university recently modernized its building systems using our IoT-enabled EcoStruxure solution. What they achieved using data was much-needed visibility that detected energy waste hiding within its buildings. As a result, Notre Dame cut energy consumption by 20% and reduced operating costs at the same time. On the industrial automation side, Guardian Glass, a leading glass manufacturer, upgraded its power distribution system to drive efficiency and take full advantage of power factor credits. Let's take a minute to see Guardian Glass' story up close.
If it weren't for glass, all of us would be cold. We would not be able to drive our cars. Our previous capacitor banks failed. Installing the Schneider Electric VARSET power factor correction capacitor banks allows Guardian Glass a 4% monthly credit from my power company. The EcoStruxure software allows greater insight into my power to keep our plant up and running.
This is the first step on the path to sustainability. Reduce helps make invisible energy waste visible. The second step on the climate action path is replacing one energy source for a decarbonized alternative. This is an essential step, and it's where electrification comes into play. Electricity is the most efficient form of energy, and it's the best vector of decarbonization. As the world's largest corporate consultant on renewable energy purchasing, we have deep expertise in replacing one kind of energy source with another. We've advised customers on more than 10 gigawatts worth of corporate renewable power purchase agreements, and we manage an average of $35.2 billion in total energy spend per year worldwide. But replacing energy sources doesn't need to be just a bulk proposition for enterprises. It can also happen at home, where more homeowners are becoming prosumers, both producers and consumers of electricity. By 2025, 25% of behind-the-meter solar installations are forecasted to include storage. Rooftop solar coupled with storage systems will redefine the grid as we know it by enabling two-way electricity flows. This is just one example of a growing trend that we're seeing to help prosumers be more sustainable. KB Homes, one of our customers, is also ready for this evolution. They're one of the largest home builders in the U.S. with a mission to build sustainable homes while tapping into the prosumer market. They're using the Square D Energy Center, an all-in-one smart home power solution, as the technology of choice to help make this happen in a new community of homes near San Diego, California. In this region, grid outages are common. Solar power on new homes is a requirement, and home buyers are looking for smart home automation. Trends such as solar mandates will likely spread beyond California and across the continent, and the Energy Center is designed to meet this need. Connected home solutions, like the Energy Center, will enable homeowners to replace carbon-based grid energy with rooftop solar and storage. Currently, to add solar or storage, you must install an array of extra gray boxes on the wall. The Energy Center consolidates all this equipment into a single smart panel, enabling faster installation. And with intelligent management, you can gain more control over how your home sources energy, from the grid, solar, or your battery. Think of it as a nanogrid that serves the energy needs of a single family. One order of magnitude up are the microgrids that are rolling out at airports, commercial buildings, factories, and beyond. We've deployed more than 300 microgrids across the U.S., and there's no better story than that of Montgomery County, Maryland, a forward-thinking community outside of Washington, D.C. With our help, leaders there upgraded their aging electrical infrastructure. They're also using resilient and renewable energy microgrids to keep the power on in their public safety headquarters and correctional facility if severe weather knocks the grid offline. Being a clean energy leader, the country's 5.6 megawatt microgrid with EV charging capability at their Smart Energy bus depot is set to revolutionize its bus fleet. The benefit to the county will be a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by an impressive 80% by 2027. Let's take a look at how Montgomery County is embracing more renewable energy.
My name is Michael Yombrock, and I am the Capital Energy Project Manager. Because we've seen a lot of weather-induced incidences recently that put about 250,000 people without power, we started looking at developing microgrid systems. From the county executive on down, we are very intent on keeping pertinent and important functions that service the community up and operating in the event of a power grid outage. Working with Schneider Electric, we identified two of our major facilities, public safety headquarters, and the other is our correctional facility. If a grid goes down using the EcoStruxure system, we're able to provide electrical power from the facility by both the standby generators, the CHP, and the solar.
Of course, a big question with any ambitious energy project is how do you pay for it? In the case of Montgomery County, it isn't paying any upfront costs thanks to Energy as a Service. With Energy as a Service, we convert the capital cost of electrical system upgrades into fixed monthly costs and assume operational responsibility for the new system. Energy as a Service allows organizations to avoid the burden of financing, owning, installing, and managing energy infrastructure. To deliver it, we've partnered with the Carlyle Group and Huck Capital on two joint ventures, Alpha Structure and Green Structure. Carlyle and Huck handle the finance side of the equation, while Alpha Structure and Green Structure take care of the rest. Another example of replacing an energy source for a decarbonized alternative is the work we're doing with General Motors. Earlier this year, GM announced us as a preferred provider for their Ultium Charge 360 fleet service. This means we'll facilitate their commitment to fleet electrification and provide a seamless experience for GM Fleet and BrightDrop customers. We'll help implement an end-to-end EV charging solution comprised of software, charging station solutions, and cybersecurity. The solution is packaged with the financial backing of Energy as a Service. With partnerships such as GM's, industries can come together and accelerate the transition to electrified transportation. Now that we've reduced energy use and replaced it with decarbonized sources, it's time for the final step of the path, engaging your wider value chain. After all, no single company can truly decarbonize alone. If decarbonizing your supply chain sounds like a massive undertaking, it is. Trust us, we know it's not easy, but it is possible. We've committed to a net zero supply chain by 2050, with a 2025 target of reducing the emissions of our top 1,000 suppliers by 50%. As I mentioned earlier, we're taking significant steps to building a stronger, more local supply chain. Decarbonizing it is part of that strategy, as longer supply chains are frequently more energy-hungry supply chains. By shortening the journey of goods, we use less energy while bringing production and distribution closer to our customers. Where we can help you here is with our Supply Chain Decarbonization Service, which is part of our Global Climate Change Advisory Service offer. Take Walmart, for instance. We're working with their U.S. suppliers to provide access to renewable energy and aggregate power purchasing agreements. Through this project, aptly named Project Gigaton, we'll help Walmart's suppliers avoid 1 billion metric tons of carbon emissions by 2030. We're also leading a program with a consortium of pharmaceutical and healthcare companies to do something similar.
The Energize program, which was announced at COP26, will really accelerate our internal and external goals, primarily around Scope 3, which is all of our extended supply chain. The goal of the program, working with Schneider Electric and 9 other leading pharmaceutical companies, is to really enroll our suppliers, educate them, and assist them in their own electricity and energy requirements, therefore giving them access, removing barriers for them so that they can do more internally, which in turn will make our Scope 3 goals and our overall net zero and net climate impact goals be attained faster and hopefully easier.
We want to see this spread beyond just the pharma sector. We want this to be a model that can scale and be replicated within other sectors and also cross-sector. The amplified effect, the ability to catalyze change and have an impact, this is just step number 1. And there are so many different ways that we can move this forward in collaboration outside our sector as well. In order for us to move quickly on the tougher things like renewable thermal and on biodiversity impact and on natural climate solutions and carbon removals, we need to be able to partner with someone like Schneider who can educate and move the people along with us without direct contact and support from us every day, which frees us up from an education component to action. That's really the key. If you've got a net zero plan, but you don't have actionable items, then it's just a plan.
Within our AstraZeneca goals, we've got a very clear target out to 2025 for our internal operations to be carbon zero, and then out to 2030 across our entire value chain. So this particular programme is really a key part of how we achieve that value chain carbon negative by working with our suppliers across that kind of full end-to-end value chain.
This third step of engaging other companies may sound optional or secondary, but it's not. Your supply chain is likely the largest part of your carbon footprint. In fact, supply chain emissions are 11.4 times higher on average than operational emissions, according to the CDP study. Simply put, if you don't decarbonize your supply chain, you don't decarbonize. You also don't need to think of these 3 steps as a linear process. Ideally, you'd be taking each of them simultaneously as part of a cohesive strategy. As I close this address with our distributors, partners, suppliers, and customers watching, you are the critical players that are part of this value chain optimization story. You are who will shape this digital, electrical, zero carbon future. You are where our success and our successful decarbonization begin and end. I firmly believe that a zero waste, zero emissions, and zero carbon future is within our grasp. Much of the technology exists, as do the methods. What we need now is a change of mindset and a willingness for all of us to take that first, second, or 100th step on the path. Whenever you're ready, whatever your core business is, and wherever you are in your journey, we're here to be your digital partner for efficiency and sustainability. As we all travel the path to sustainability together, we have the chance to create a powerful legacy for generations to come.
Thank you, Annette, for that incisive look at how we can all pursue a digital, electric, decarbonized future. We're on the verge of an exciting, world-changing transition.
I second that, Trish. Now, let's take a deeper look at the technology that makes this future possible. It's time for our North America premiere, the first look at our newest technology coming to the market. Let's head over to our Innovation Executive Briefing Center and Labs in St. Louis, Missouri. Our digital customer experience team is standing by, ready to get things going.
Thank you, Khaled and Trish. Hello and welcome to this one-of-a-kind Innovation Executive Briefing Center here in St. Louis, Missouri. My name's Jesse Hands and I'm Director of Customer Experience for Schneider Electric. My role is to help bring technology to life for our customers visiting our innovation hubs, our labs, our factories, whether it's in person or virtually.
And I'm Tiffany Kiernan, Briefing Manager here in St. Louis. My role is the coordination and facilitation of world-class customer experiences, which we deliver both on-site and virtually through our Innovation Experience Live platform. Annually, from this St. Louis site alone, we host over 4,000 customers in person and an additional 9,000 virtually.
In just a moment, we have some very cool product launches to premiere. But first, we'd like to give you a sneak peek of some of our North American innovation sites where we research, develop, and manufacture these great new technologies. It's in places such as this live 10,000 square foot Discovery Lab, where we demonstrate our latest innovations in commercial, industrial, data center systems, and software solutions.
First stop, Andover, Massachusetts.
Hello and welcome to Andover, Massachusetts. At over 53,000 square feet, Andover is one of the top 5 R&D sites for Schneider Electric globally. My name is Yumi Alinoli, and as the Product Marketing Manager, I take customers on tours and give live technology demonstrations. Here, there are many labs such as this one, where you'll get a look at our latest digital solutions for buildings, industrial sites, and microgrids. I hope to see you here one day. Now, let's head over to our Smyrna site.
Welcome to Smyrna, Tennessee, home of one of our major North American R&D centers. My name is Duke Dunsford, and I'm the Customer Experience Manager here at the Smyrna Innovation Lab. When you make a virtual or an on-site visit to Smyrna, I'll help you get an up-close look at our latest EcoStruxure power solutions for buildings, factories, mission-critical applications, and more. Hope to see you soon. And now, let's head to Lexington.
Welcome to the Schneider Electric facility in Lexington, Kentucky, where we manufacture load centers, switches, and circuit breakers. My name is Lisa Calzerano, and I've had the pleasure of bringing our customers here to get a firsthand view of what we do. Our Lexington facility was recently recognized by the World Economic Forum as both a global lighthouse facility and a sustainability lighthouse facility, meaning it is one of the most advanced and one of the most sustainable manufacturing facilities in the world, even though it's 64 years old. It turns out you can teach an old factory new tricks. And now let's head to Monterey.
Bienvenidos and welcome to our Monterey Smart Factory. My name is Yasmin Alarcon. I studied as an engineer and I now work on global supply chain. In Monterey, you will get to see Industry 4.0 in a greenfield context. You will learn how we cut maintenance costs by 30% and reduce carbon emissions by hundreds of tons. We are ready to help you design a solution that delivers similar results in your own factory. Hope to see you soon.
Welcome back to St. Louis, where we're just about to launch our premiere. Before we go, Tiffany and I want to invite you to your very own Innovation Experience Live virtual tour. We make it easy to visit virtually, or in person if you prefer. To schedule a visit, reach out to your Schneider Electric contact.
We look forward to seeing you soon. And now, it's time for the premiere.
It is great to see these innovations up close.
I agree, Khaled. These are new tools in the kit every organization can use to save energy and elevate reliability. And these same technologies will be essential in the coming years as momentum builds for infrastructure modernization. Like many of you, we've been carefully analyzing the latest developments in the conversation around infrastructure. So let's spend a few minutes hearing from some experts on the topic. For our next section, I'd like to introduce U.S. Country President Amar Paul, who will be speaking with industry experts about what the latest developments mean for your business.
Thank you, Trish and Khaled. It's great to be here on a beautiful day in Washington, D.C., where the future of American infrastructure is taking shape. I think most of us would agree that we have to invest in infrastructure in this country. Significant investments are almost 70 years old at this point, but how we do it has to be different this time around. We at Schneider Electric certainly want to see the U.S. become more resilient in the face of threats, more digital given the need for efficiency and decarbonization. And that's exactly what the federal government is working on. Hundreds of billions of dollars for energy, water, communications, and transport infrastructure. But the key is how we spend the money. Today we're here to talk about collaborative opportunities for public and private stakeholders alike to digitize and modernize U.S. infrastructure. So joining me in this conversation are two important people that possess unique insights into the future of infrastructure. David Terry is Executive Director at National Association of State Energy Officials, a nonprofit organization committed to helping state energy officials use data, analytics, and best practice sharing. David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Chris Brown is the Chief of the Office of Energy and Sustainability for Montgomery County Government in Maryland. Chris and his team oversee their sustainability efforts for a county of 1 million people that's growing. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So, we talked a little bit when we were preparing for this about the process of timing, that how different stakeholders, whether they're politicians or state entities, are looking for both long-term outcomes but also short-term outcomes. As you give advice to state entities, which is what your organization does, how are you helping them prepare now for what may come sometime next year?
It's a really good question. I think maybe in two parts. One is giving them a sense of the timing of the funds and the scale of the funding and how those pieces might come together for their particular state. The other piece is there's a lot of existing planning and programs on the ground that it'll build upon. And there have been holes, if you will, in many of those pieces for a long time, whether that's EV infrastructure, certain building upgrades for mission critical facilities and decarbonization goals that are underway in many states, resilience, some of the mission critical facilities and energy retrofits that will allow communities to keep operating in the face of an unusual weather event, the climate-driven weather event, or a cybersecurity event, for example. I think those are some of the nearer term items we can focus on, even as we plan for these bigger sort of modernization and digitization of these assets so that they run better and serve the community they're in.
Build on this idea of which sectors you think are going to go first, because I think timing matters and the supply chains are stressed across the world right now. So sector prioritization is going to matter. Any thoughts on that?
I think from a building perspective, we'll see some of the public sector buildings go first, because I think there's some flexibility there. There's clearly a recognition, whether it's a hospital or a school, the indoor air quality matters, but also the performance of the building. So I think we may see some of those move first. Certainly there's supply chain issues. The other place I think we may see move more quickly than we anticipate is in the transportation electrification space. There's a tremendous amount of private investment, but it's also the user experience that we're seeing, and there's so many benefits that come with that. The grid and the operation of the grid, both on the supply generation, but also the distribution, and in the building and in the transportation itself, the interaction of those pieces. I think those are fundamental to getting this right, but they're also a little bit more complicated, and they need the help of really specialty planners and companies that can make that happen. And that's a little bit longer term, but it's important to do it soon and do it right.
I love that. This is a moment to be ambitious. I think that's great advice. Before we move on to the next set of questions, one last question for you, David. We have a lot of people watching in the private sector, from large electrical contractors, electrical distributors, design and consulting firms, capital partners like Carlyle. Speak to that community for a minute. What advice would you give them to be better partners for state entities?
Well, I think they, in general, have been great partners. And I think one of the places where we can do better is that holistic planning. And I think those private sector partners you named are important to that, not only in helping to deliver what those plans look like, but the private capital that they bring to bear. We know in the public sector, at least speaking for our members, that public-private partnership in executing infrastructure, whether it's a building or a transmission line, is essential to making it not only work efficiently, but work well. And I think if they reach out to their state officials, reach out to their local officials, and really engage them in that planning process.
So that's a great transition to talk to you, Chris, right? You have executed with us one of these great projects, and you've navigated all the issues we were just talking to David about. So tell us a little bit about the project, but also about the process of getting there.
For us, to execute these projects, it really starts with a great leadership and a great vision, right? And that comes from our community. What comes out of this is a real effort towards policy and action that manifests itself in things like our declaration of climate emergency, which is an 80% GHG reduction target by 2027 and 100% by 2035. These are very aggressive goals. What that creates is an environment where we can work across divisions, where we can work across departments to create, things like this bus depot that we're electrifying in Silver Spring. This is something that we have this rallying cry, we have this sense of urgency, we have a timeline to work towards, and that brings everybody together to know that we have to move things forward now. And so with the support and partnership with Carlyle and Schneider, we have this electrification project that we're putting together to start the electrification of the bus fleet. And this is not a simple matter. This isn't run an extension cord, as you would well imagine, and as you well know. We're taking a larger holistic view and saying, this is infrastructure that's critically important for frontline workers, for people to have the access to their job in the case of an extreme weather event. We have put in resilience. We've included microgrids, technology that really allows us to run independent of the electric grid, but also gives us the ability to manage our business, to manage this bus infrastructure, to charge when we want to, not when electric rates dictate that we charge. So bringing in folks like your team at AlphaStructure to help us solve these problems is truly a huge benefit. We couldn't do it on our own. Yeah. And so the introduction of capital and expertise is really the key component here.
Talk a little bit more about that last part, right? Because, we talked to David about the federal money coming in, but as often state officials remind us, you have to balance your budgets. You have to make sure you can execute on time, on schedule. You have other political considerations. So how much is engineering and how much is access to this third-party capital as you make your decisions here?
I mean, they're all factors, right? There's many competing interests for the capital that we have available. But I think with something like an electrification of a bus depot, the bigger component is maybe not just the capital, but it is the long-term relationship, the ability to bring in the expertise, not just to design and build it, but to help us operate it and effectively run that business as a partnership. That is a key component, right? Because what happens over time is budgets can change, the ability to maintain and operate, the equipment can change. And when we put together these long-term private partner agreements, what we're finding is that we're really creating a long-term relationship that works together to ensure that we're getting the outcome, that we're sure that the operations will always be there. And that's what really is underlining all this, is that our buildings, our buses, they're ready to serve the community.
Chris, one of the exciting things about what you're doing in Montgomery County is you're actually doing things, right? A lot of people are talking about this. So you have been leading for some time. And what advice do you have at the broader infrastructure level for both your peers that might be listening in, but also for the private sector?
One of the keys that I would say when interfacing with the private sector is that things take a little longer to get going, so be patient, but also think long-term about, what are the next projects, what are the other pieces, and how do you contract for that? How do you put together these long-term relationships that will lead to multiple pieces of work, right? You're investing a lot in the beginning in the business development of this relationship. So you want to make sure you're putting master agreements together that allow for add-on work and that we can have repeat performances, right? Because once you've invested the time, you don't want to do this over again. You want to be able to move quickly and expeditiously. And I think that's a real key as we start talking about a 10-year infrastructure bill, is that you want to have the ability to keep moving on things year after year.
So Chris, we were talking a little bit about building performance, right? And we're in this sort of surreal period where we have this incredible stock of buildings that are somewhat empty. We all hope that that will change, but we also know that it may never go back to exactly the way it was. So in the middle of all of that, there's a lot of opportunity. How are you thinking about that for your portfolio?
Within Montgomery County, like several other places, New York City, Washington, D.C., St. Louis, we have in front of our council right now a building energy performance standard. Building energy performance standards have this unique approach to long-term energy efficiency and improving that existing building stock. So what you'll have with the Building Energy Performance Standard is a renewed focus on how do you look at the systems that create a building, the envelope, the mechanical systems. How does this all work together to create an efficiency? You can't do a one-for-one replacement of an HVAC system and achieve much significant or much in the way of energy efficiency. But if you do the envelope, the windows, the insulation, the air barriers, then you can right-size that equipment, and then you're making a really big benefit to the environmental aspects of this building. That's something that a performance standard will really, I think, push forward over time. Is how do we look at buildings and how do we renovate them? How do we approach energy efficiency?
I'm so gratified to hear you describe it as a systems problem, because for a long time now at Schneider, we have been constructing a portfolio that allows us to help customers think that way. David, I would like to come back to you because you mentioned a little bit about labor and making sure that we prepare the workforce of the future. David Long, who's the president of NECA, and his team are listening in. And they're working hard to make sure that they work with private entities to help prepare for that. Any advice in terms of state programs that can accelerate that and make states more competitive in attracting human capital?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things. Our organization with a couple of other organizations led the U.S. Energy Employment Report for a number of years. That's been returned back to the federal government to operate. But one of the things we did with the data that came from that was look at employers' needs in the energy sector, and electrical sector being top of the list in many ways. And we started to work with our members to test out programs where they were engaging with their state departments of labor or their community colleges, the trade unions that they work with to help foster high school changes in education formats that would allow them to transition into these training programs or onto community college where that was appropriate, et cetera. So really trying to target the different levels and entry points to the workforce that they could make. I think we have a long way to go in that area, but there is a recognition that these are skilled trades that deserve a living wage, a wage that's competitive with the market that's out there, the demand for their skills. And I think there's a general recognition of that. I think the harder part we're still struggling with is there are a lot of people needed with these skills. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but the focus is shifting there.
That's an excellent point. And, we think about things like just big transitions, the amount of rooftops with solar in residential homes, the number of electric vehicles that will come in, and the charging infrastructure, both at home, but also at where you travel, places where you work, restaurants you go to. And you aggregate that and you start thinking about both the manufacturing capacity and the labor capacity required. And it is an incredible opportunity. And just like the last time 70 years ago where we had massive infrastructure investment. Clean jobs are actually better jobs. And I love your point about making sure that we're engaging as many people as we can in the process. What message do you have for the private sector on how to engage with states on innovation? And there's some platforms you're chairing that might help with that.
Yeah, I think it's a really important area to focus on. I think we sort of characterize it in two ways. One, there's innovation that's near term, commercially available products that just simply aren't being integrated or aren't being used widely. And some of those that come to mind, solid state cooling, building grid interactive control equipment is another really great area. Some of the transportation electrification charging technologies that are relatively new but commercially available. So there's that near term piece that I think citizens, communities, policymakers need to be able to show momentum, and so we begin to adopt and advance that more quickly. Then there's the innovation that's more on the research and demonstration side, and we have the energy office is really in their core function. After life, health, and safety for their governor, they care about economic development. So they're working with their universities and companies to demonstrate new technologies. There's a program in Mississippi, Inclusive Innovation, that's being operated in partnership with the State Energy Office and the Department of Energy that really reaches out to historically Black colleges and universities and other institutions to bring in the innovators from that sector. We have in Texas a really similar incubator approach that's been underway in energy for a number of years, New York, California, and on. And I think advancing these two pieces at the same time, both the technologies that are come, but to give us the momentum that we can see from products that are available now. And we'd like to see those new products as a part of this infrastructure planning process that we put forward.
No, we couldn't agree more, because we see these technologies as national competitive advantage. Just like the investments coming out of DARPA and the internet created this competitive advantage for us over the last 3 decades in IT, we think there is a real ability for us to be leading the innovation in the world around energy technology. So no, that's a fantastic point. Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. David, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure listening to you and getting your insights. I love the juxtaposition of what you're helping state leaders define and what you're actually doing on the ground with money. And both of you are inspiring us to think differently about how we take this forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
As you heard from our panelists today, there's a lot of hope and maybe some uncertainty about what's to come. But it is a pretty exceptional moment. And generations from now are going to judge how we operate, how we execute, and how we make sure we make the right investments with the right urgency. It's a great chance to make sense of things together. For folks tuning in, I want to leave you with a couple of messages about where we go from here. First, this isn't the end of the conversation. We're going to keep talking about infrastructure. We're going to keep following what's going on in DC and at state capitals every day, and yes, there are things changing every day. And regardless, we stand here to help you prepare and deploy capital for these infrastructure opportunities. Secondly, we're ready to collaborate. We understand public-private partnerships are often public-private-private partnerships with many stakeholders. So look, we're here to help. Feel free to reach out to your Schneider contacts and let us know how we can help you prepare, whether it's digital tools to create digital twins before you invest, whether it's a sustainability calculus to help meet your own sustainability goals, whether it's thinking about how to drive better outcomes for your portfolio of data centers. All those are solutions that you can participate with Schneider Electric. Until then, I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Las Vegas in person next year.
That was a great panel. It's certainly an exciting moment for the future of infrastructure. It's also an exciting moment to be looking at the convergence of infrastructure and sustainability. Today, you've already heard from us about sustainability. It's a topic that fuels so much of what we do here at Schneider, but there's actually a lot more to explore on the journey.
That's right. So over the next 15 minutes, we're going to hear some ideas on how to rank as one of the world's most sustainable corporations. It is handy guidance for all of us on the path to sustainability.
Welcome to Innovation Summit North America 2021. I'm Adrian Thomas, and I'm the country president for Schneider Electric Canada. We're here in Toronto to talk about business leadership and how it can drive towards a net zero future. I'm joined today for this conversation with Toby Heaps from Corporate Knights and with Francis Edmond from HP Canada. Toby is the CEO and co-founder of Corporate Knights and spearheaded the beginning of the Global 100 Most Sustainable Companies list. Francis is the Sustainability Impact Leader at HP Canada. She has a passion for teaching about sustainability and has been twice recognized as a Clean 50. So welcome both of you to our discussion. Francis, I'd like to start with you. I know your company is making great strides in sustainability. Can you talk to us about some of the activities that you're driving at HP?
Sure, thank you, and great to be here today. So by 2030, we aim to be the most sustainable and just technology company, along with 50% absolute value chain reductions and a 75% product and packaging circularity rate. And not forgetting the human side of this, we have a goal of 50% of women in management. So those are pretty big, audacious goals. But it's nothing new for HP. We've been doing this for about 80 years from our founding fathers, really setting the scene as a purpose-driven company by saying that the real reason HP exists is to make a difference. So we've been focusing on these historical goals and our new goals, and obviously the next 8 years are absolutely critical. Just like everybody else in the audience, we really need to be focusing on these goals. So a couple of things that will help people here think about this. Over the last 2 years, we've recorded over $1 billion of business as a result of our sustainability leadership. So that should give everybody in the audience here hope that there's good business to be had out of this. But a couple of key things play into it. One is transparency in setting clear goals and then reporting on how you're doing against those goals. And then some recognition in the market. And this is where Toby and the wonderful Corporate Knights Global 100 comes in. Simply put, you cannot be a sustainable company without being transparent. And the kind of work that the Global 100 do to bring forward that transparency and recognize and celebrate it is just amazing.
Thank you, Francis. Toby, I'd like to kind of play that back to Corporate Knights and your Global 100 Index. In 2021, Schneider Electric was at the top of your Corporate Knights Global 100 Index for most sustainable companies, something that we're very proud of and we take seriously. We have a responsibility to share with others and help companies on their path forward for sustainability. Toby, I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to put this list together?
So we believe business can be a force for good and that markets can work to make the world better, but you need good information and incentives for that to work. And so the Global 100 is an attempt to put in one simple page the big companies that are leading the way to a more sustainable world. And the idea is that their employees will feel proud. It will help to reinforce the progress the company is making. It'll be an example that other companies want to fit into. Customers will perk up, and it will be a bit of a calling card of excellence that you can trust this company. 85% of value of companies is now intangible value. A large chunk of that is reputation. A large chunk of that is sustainability leadership. So a sustainability mark of excellence can be worth billions of dollars for a company. The Global 100 is just a synthesizer, a transparent synthesizer of that. It's really the company performance that is at the heart of it. And then the other part is investors. And this is the interesting thing. Since we started the Global 100 in 2005, we've been tracking the investment performance of the index. It's sector neutral, it's global, and it's handily outperformed other ESG indices that are not that transparent. More importantly, it's steadily outperformed its benchmark, the MSCI All Country World Index of blue chip companies. And so over 18 years, the Global 100 companies have stood the test of time and outperformed. And on average, the Global 100 companies live twice as long as the normal company that would be in a blue chip index. So we're seeing the good companies also turn in the better performance, which is something that gives me a lot of faith that this is a trend that has legs.
And certainly I can tell you in our company, this is a huge source of pride for employees and makes them want to do more and drive more for sustainability. And I think this kind of concept of transparency and a credible source is very important. And maybe we could get some comments from Francis in terms of business models and services. And I think this is another place where we've seen HP kind of redefine business models to create business and also to improve sustainability. Can you share a little bit around that?
Sure. So a couple of things as part of our circular economy strategy, keeping materials in use for as long as possible, we have really identified that offering services is the key way to drive that. The footprint reductions across all categories of the life cycle assessments are pretty impressive. So helping our customers actually buy as a service is one of the things that we've really identified as a necessary thing. And today my job is really to change how Canada buys with the emphasis on circular and sustainable procurement. A couple of other things that we've done is to really think about our full value chain. Historically, supply chain responsibility was really an upstream activity, and we've been at it for quite a few decades. But in the last year, we have actually started to look at our downstream value chain and launched a program called Amplify Impact that actually takes HP's thousands of partners, literally thousands of partners around the world, and gives them free access to sustainability tools, metrics, and tips and tricks and hints, and basically takes them from having low to middling sustainability programs to really pumping out their sustainability prowess. So investing heavily to help other businesses also start on their sustainability journey. It's a very critical piece that large corporations can play.
Yeah, I think, and there I think you're talking really about how companies that have knowledge and information and leadership in sustainability can help others come along on this journey. Not everyone is in at the same place of this journey. So, back on the Global 100 Index, do you see that this index is also pushing companies to learn and to do more around sustainability? Maybe you could talk maybe what you hear and how you've seen this have an impact.
Yeah, that's the whole objective of it, is we want to sort of reinforce momentum and also create an incentive for companies who don't make the Global 100 to want to try and get on the Global 100. And now we engage with thousands of people from all over the world representing large companies who want to present their data and make sure that it's getting properly calibrated. And what we see is the companies that make the Global 100, there's all sorts of great things that happen to them. And it really does help to reinforce the positive momentum. We see their employees being proud, not because some third party said, hey, you're a sustainability leader, but because some third party said that and they know it's true because of their on-the-ground reality and experience with the company. Because we're measuring things that matter. And we're doing it with a pure intention to really find things that matter for sustainability. And we're doing it transparently so people can see. And when people look under the hood, they have a sense of confidence that this isn't just another sort of list for hire or for sale. It's a credible, rules-based, transparent methodology. We see investors flocking to Global 100 companies. We've heard stories from some of the Global 100 company CEOs telling us that a third of their investor base over the last 5 years has shifted their long-term conviction shareholders, where those shareholders are in that company now because it's a sustainability leader. And part of that the credo of the Global 100, it's not the only thing, but it's one of the things that helps to give that sort of trusted mark of excellence. And it's a bit of a rarefied mark of excellence. And we don't pretend that any of the Global 100 companies have reached the sort of point of Mount Olympus where they can kind of rest on the laurels, but they're setting the evolving standard and pushing the limits of what is possible. And that's really important, not just within their own businesses, but as you and Francis are talking about, the businesses of your colleagues, and also the cabinet rooms of our governance, because when they see what is possible from leaders like Schneider Electric and HP, it makes it easier to raise the floor and bring all of society along.
Great. So Francis, I want to talk to you about circular economy. One of the things that's happening right now is that we have huge supply chain issues, trouble getting raw materials, massive investments, and how does circularity, can it help us with supply chain issues and help us be more sustainable at the same time? I know you talk a lot about circularity in HP. Maybe you could share a little bit what you guys are doing and how you see that helping drive sustainability.
Sure. Well, there's a very clear link to biodiversity loss and increasing circularity helping with fixing that problem. And it really comes back to the fact that when we dig for raw metals or oil or farming, those extractive industries, which are responsible for 100 billion tons of stuff being dug out of the earth, are responsible for 50% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions and 80% of species loss. So if we don't have to dig for more metals or oil out of the ground, and we can keep those metals and plastics in circulation for longer, we won't have those impacts. So that's where the link to circularity and biodiversity really plays in. So we're very heavily focused on, 30% post-consumer recycled plastic across our entire product portfolio by 2025. And there's no reason why any organization can't do that. We've worked with a Canadian organization called the Laverne Group to make plastics fully circular, and we can do that today. We have the technology, we just need to want to do it. And of course, procurement is a key role in that, because if you're always buying and demanding new as opposed to refurbished or recycled content, we won't ever get there. So again, why we focus so heavily on circular and sustainable procurement.
And any quick tips you can offer business leaders listening to this about how to engage with suppliers?
Sure. It's really about procurement. Procurement is a little bit where I think of IT as having been a decade ago, where IT was moving to be a very strategic piece of every business. Every company is a technology company today. Any company that's seriously looking at sustainability needs to elevate their procurement function to be a very strategic function. And that means changing the way procurement is measured away from this tyranny of the lowest price to best value, which includes looking at how many carbon emissions are embedded in that product or service that you're buying, and then what are you going to do with it when it's reached the end of its first life, hopefully give it a second life, and really thinking about durability and repairability of the things that you're bringing into your organization. So changing how procurement is viewed in an organization, how it's measured, and how transparent you are and the metrics that you're applying to your procurement function are just critical levers to move us into this circular low carbon economy.
Thanks, Francis. And we know from some of our experiences, some was just engaging the conversation and asking, and suppliers saying, oh, if that's what you want, then certainly we'll look at it. So certainly starting that conversation is going to be super important to move forward. Before we get to kind of the closing here, Toby, circularity, biodiversity loss, are you starting to think about these things as some of the criteria that's going to go into considering sustainable companies for the future and your Global 100 list?
Yeah, I mean, some of the big issues coming down, biodiversity is huge. Animal welfare is another big issue. Racial diversity, pay equity between genders, another huge issue. Living wage, big issues. But these are all pretty big issues that are becoming more prominent, and the data is becoming much better. The disclosure is becoming better. Regulatory requirements are becoming much better. And I think we're going to see a lot happening on biodiversity in particular.
Great. That's good to hear. So as we come to the close of this session, I wanted to ask both of you, what do you think is the most important thing for business leaders to do to drive towards this path of net zero? And I'll start with you, Toby. What do you think is most important for business leaders?
Well, one of my favorite movies is All the President's Men with Robert Redford, Martin Sheen. And there's a famous scene in the parking lot basement with the FBI informant, otherwise known as Deep Throat, where he tells Robert Redford, follow the money, only the money. And so what that means, I think, in this context is once a company has accepted and understands the tremendous growth opportunity being a net zero solution provider, and it's part of the core strategy, then it's about the money. So let's look at the procurement budget. Is 100% of our procurement for major suppliers aligned with suppliers who are net zero aligned? We see the UK government now making that a condition of doing business with the UK government. You have to have a strong climate action plan to be net zero aligned. And then the other major one is CapEx, in R&D as well. But what percent of the CapEx is aligned? And if it's anything less than 100%, then people should be going and sharpening the pencils and getting it up to date. But it's really, at this point, if we pour money on the solutions, magic will happen.
And I think it's a great advice to the rest of the businesses out there to think of, if you want access to markets, you also need to have a sustainability strategy. Otherwise, you won't have access to those procurement markets. So now turning to you, Francis, your thoughts.
Well, leadership is really critical here, walking the talk and really giving your employees the permission to start seeking every little rock that they can lift up to start finding where the carbon savings are. And it can't be understated how important the leadership is here, that everything has to change. So you have to give your employees that permission to start working on this and to really almost put a second pair of glasses on, that instead of just looking at dollars, we're now looking at carbon. And we're not going to know where all of those savings are coming from. We're going to have to unleash the creativity of our employees. So give them permission to do that.
Great, thanks, friend. And I'll share one of the things that we're doing at Schneider Electric, which in our recent sustainability initiative, we've defined one of those is to have local initiatives. And what we found here in Canada is our employees are really engaged. They find it a great value for them. And they also think about it when they're designing, when they're procuring, when they're engineering. So it's a great way to get the whole organization engaged, is to have some local commitments in addition to some of the large global commitments. So I'd like to thank Toby and Francis for joining me here today for this important discussion. And I want to reiterate that developing a strategy to drive towards a net zero future is a must. And regardless of where you are on that journey, we can be your partner.
Thank you, Adrian. It's great to see what's possible right now when it comes to decarbonization and sustainability. As an industry, we have so much to look forward to. And with that, we've wrapped up the first half of Innovation Summit North America 2021. But it's not over yet.
Before you go, however, I want to take a moment and thank you once again for joining us today. We're thrilled to be your partner on this journey toward efficiency and sustainability.
And we have exciting news to share. In 2022, the Innovation Summit will return to being an in-person event. You'll get a chance to connect face-to-face, see our technology up close, and enjoy the festive atmosphere of Las Vegas, Nevada.
And with that, we'll leave you to personalize the rest of your Innovation Summit experience. You can head to the Agenda tab to choose which upcoming sessions you'd like to watch. And please stay connected with us on social media using the hashtag Innovation Summit. Have a great rest of your summit.
These moments that define our individual journeys brought our paths together today. What's next? Now it's about moving forward. So gain insights from industry leaders when you need it. Understand how to work towards sustainability goals. And discover a future where achieving more while using fewer resources is a reality. Because whatever path you're taking toward a net zero world will be with you every step of the way.